All right, and we're back. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, building damage experts, every Saturday right here on iHeartRadio. Thanks again for listening throughout the break. Giving some thanks to our sponsors here on Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. Love to have you with us every single week. Hans Kennan with Morgan & Morgan, our legal hat here on our show to really help us navigate through these complex issues with your insurance policy, what's covered under that policy, and if I have a dispute, what do I do? Who do I call? Not Ghostbusters, but you'll call Hans Kennan with Morgan. But we're talking right before the break about just in the insurance, just chaotic situation with the ever rising cost of premiums. But now we've had these law changes, and I feel like these insurance companies, just as we mentioned with farmers, decided to say right around June, but June and July is when, I forget what the date is. I don't know if it's June 1st or July 1st or whichever, but the insurance companies have to turn into the Office of Insurance Regulation their letter of that their reinsurance coverage. And my thought is, my opinion, I have no idea, but my thought is that farmers took a look at that and it was like, holy crap. And as we know from different articles and just from us being in the industry, that the rising cost of reinsurance rates was absolutely the reason why we're getting these massive increases from our insurance carriers now. They're passing it over to us, and then also getting inflated increases just for adding into the whole hocus pocus of insurance rates going up everywhere, which we know of. I heard it myself from a Tower Hill supervisor saying that we raised our rates because the state of Florida said we could. And as you know, Hans, I mean, the OIR was dishing out increases to folks that didn't even ask for it.
And I agree. And it was amazing. Like I said, the discussion had been about why. And like you mentioned, they simply were allowed to do so. And also there's supposed to be public meetings and public hearings regarding any of those increases. And those were simply, as far as I can tell, simply dispensed with. Certainly we're just like, yeah, we're supposed to do this because we're a state that operates in the sunshine, which is why they're called sunshine laws. And we were in darkness for a lot of those issues that ran with those rate increases. I had a gentleman call me today about a case, and he said, "Oh, I have another problem." What's that? He goes, "Well, my insurance used to be $4,000, now it's $8,000, and I can't afford that. What do I do?" I mean, and that became, like our discussion just now, is there's really nothing I can do. I can't sue the insurer for raising their rates, at least not yet. I've been trying to think about that. But what do you do? So we talked about, again, the impact on the housing market. If this guy can't afford his insurance and he can't carry insurance and he has a mortgage, then the mortgage company's going to carry it for him. Or he'll go bare if he doesn't need insurance, and then if he has any problems, then the house doesn't go into foreclosure, but whatever, having to be potentially sold for his debts. So again, the impact of the high insurance rates is not just limited to wait for the hurricane and then you got a big loss. It's the ongoing carrying cost of a policy that costs that much for folks, as you mentioned also earlier, may be on a fixed income.
Right. And so what happens to those homes? And I think we're not going to see that trickle effect for years and years later. And how do we work towards bringing it back, to repealing this bad law, this unconstitutional laws that were changed just to better the insurance company's position, not for the consumers, not for the folks that vote for these members, the senators, the representatives that are now posting these laws, which were just had zero control this year. And again, the governor had every single control play going on, from governor's office making the bills, giving it to the senator, giving it to the Republican to say, I decided to screw every homeowner or every consumer here in the state of Florida, not only from property, medical, auto, life insurance. If you have a dispute against your insurance company, it doesn't matter. We don't care about you. That's not what we wanted here in the state of Florida. It's not what we voted for. It was not a pending matter that folks were driving up to the Tallahassee and say, we got to make these changes. That came from the top down, and that was bought and paid for by the insurance lobby, and that's why I'm just sad of the fact that it was Governor DeSantis who took the bribe, who took the money to better himself in a position to run for president on the absolutely wrong time to run. I think he's an idiot for that poor right there. Why do you want to go against the ever popular Trump, and you're losing by 30, 40 points in most areas? Like be smart. Run for a vice president.
Right.
Under Trump, under a Republican ticket, ride your popularity to the White House that way, and you're in charge of foreign affairs as the vice president, right? And you probably do a better job than the Orange Man. I mean, I think the Orange Man is going to do great back in the office for our independent rights and freedom, and he's not bought and paid for. He can't be bought and paid for, and that's what I like about him. He's an independent guy. He's going to run it like a business, and I think that's exactly what our government needs, both in the state of Florida and in the federal government. I'm tired of these lifelong politicians that are bought and paid for by all these big groups, the Soros groups, or these other groups that are actually controlling the media and control the government. They're only working for a very small amount of people, and not for the greater amount of the population. And I think in many ways, my perspective, I think Trump stands for that. And I think he stands for the people and what we want as a whole, and have our freedom set aside. I mean, I don't want to get political here. I just think that I'm just talking negatively against people having so much control because they're controlled by a highly either just rich based political stance to where we don't have any power against. I mean, I felt powerless during COVID. I did. I felt like, every part of the government was just coming down. The media, everybody was just holding hands to make us all feel like we can't leave our houses. We can't visit our grandparents. We can't have a celebration anywhere. We can't go out past 9 o'clock at night because apparently it's dark and that's when COVID comes out. I mean, they had us all freaked out, and I felt like we couldn't do anything, and I feel like that's what is moving on with having somebody that's like Biden, who's been 46 years in the government and is a multi-millionaire on a $100,000, $200,000 a year salary. I mean, explain that. You know what I mean? These people are bought and paid for, and it's not for our betterment of the people. It's for that 1% that control the world. And I guess that's where my tangent comes from, is I feel like it's a slippery slope if we continue to elect people that are just bought and paid for by big groups. And I'm using this example, like the industry, like the insurance lobby, paying this $100 million to DeSantis, and he took it. And he immediately put the reform on with House Bill 837, who ripped out all of the power from the consumer to hire a lawyer like yourself in a dispute against their insurance company. So it emboldens the insurance company to say, you know what, like in a life insurance policy, I'm sorry, that this person died and was paying, all of this money for the benefits, but we're deciding that we're not gonna pay you for it. And from that to property to auto, all these disputes, and the smaller disputes are going to be left by the wayside, and that you're screwing millions and millions of people $10,000 at a time, $20,000 at a time, and that's going to create some big waves, especially for the people that can't afford it, and that's unfortunate. I don't know what to say after that. I just went off on a long tangent.
I was going to say, we were talking about DeSantis' success and his ability to kind of rise to a national stage. It really was predicated, and we've had this discussion before, that the House and Senate have just fallen into lockstep with him. So while he's done a good job on the conservative side, and I'm a Republican like Richie is, to do a lot of things, it's really been based on the cooperation or the subservient nature of the Senate and the House to allow him to do that. And as long as he's in the office, my fear is if his numbers don't go up, what's he going to do when he comes back for the next session in order to try to gain some popularity? I'm kind of scared to find out.
Right. And that is a scary part. It's either going to be here ruling with an iron fist for another couple of years, or maybe he'll have an epiphany and start to roll things back for popularity purposes. We'll see. We're going to take a break here on Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. We'll be right back.